Hi, Mato. Sorry for the long wait. I was feeling very tired. I was feeling very tired today, so it's been I kind of struggled getting the stream started, and I took a long time to shower and all that stuff. Yeah, my phone again. But yeah, today's gonna be more narration. Oh, do I? I mean, that's my voice. Just doesn't my voice always sound monotone? But yeah, today's gonna be more narration streams. I wasn't really feeling Star Fox Adventures. I'd like to play Star Fox Adventures, but you know how my complaints about games lately, how they take a long time, they're really slow, and like, a Zelda clone is just kind of more of that, even if I really like it. Well, it's story oriented, like you said, but it's not exciting to watch. There's not fast gameplay. So we can switch to Star Fox Adventures if you like. Otherwise, I was gonna narrate Abandoned by Disney. Oh right, last time it was Tales from the Gas Station, so I should start from part 5, I think. Well, thank you. With games, I don't know. I haven't been feeling games lately. I mean, sort of. But for streams, it's different. Sure, I've been playing Star Fox on SNES, but, do I really want it to turn into like a Dark Souls type of stream where it's just me dying a million times over and over? That's not entertaining. I thought about 64, but if I didn't stream SNES, then it doesn't feel quite right. Because then I'm like starting with the remake and not the original, and just, I don't know. It's a whole big thing with me. But let me check. There's Tales from the Gas Station. There's 2 volumes. Oh my goodness, there's a lot. Volume 3, The Green Knight, Bedside Manor, Volume 4, Tales from the Road. Goodness gracious, is there a lot? Thank you for your concern, Mato. I'm not, but it does mean a lot. So thank you. Okay. Yeah, I've been struggling to think of what to stream because I just haven't been feeling it lately. But I don't want to mope either. So we're gonna start with Tales from the Gas Station, Part 5, The Dark God by Jack Townsend. Let's see if I can do this. I'm feeling a little too sluggish today. Oh, maybe I should have started with a walk. That would have gotten the blood flowing. Let me just drink some water. Oh, I see why Part 4's gone. Okay. The Dark God, Part 5. I should begin this entry by saying how truly sorry I am to anyone who read Part 4. I had no idea that was going to happen. The agents have assured me that every trace of the story has been removed from the from the internet and that there's nothing to worry about. If you were unfortunate enough to have read part 4, I beg you for your own sake, try to forget everything. If you experience nosebleeds, dizziness, migraines, or hallucinations, go immediately to the emergency room. If you have a recurring dream of an island made of song under... That reminds you of One Piece film Red. Under no circumstances should you approach or attempt to open the blue door with a painting of a crow on it. If you did not read part 4, there was no part 4. It does not exist. Forget you ever heard of it. And apparently part 4 isn't even on the site. Oh, got a commission update. By now, you probably already know that there's a shitty gas station at the edge of our small town and that weird things have been happening there. The city council has personally asked me to stop talking about it as there have been some astute readers that not only tracked down our small town from the brief descriptions I've given, but actually come and visited me at work. Oh, do you want me to wait? Oh, wait. Oh, you sure? Oh, okay. Okay. I'll just 1.5 times stream. Oh, okay. But actually come and visited me at work. I heard that one of them has joined the mathematists, and as far as I know, the other 2 are still missing. Once again, I am sorry. I'm not working right now. It's the first legitimate break I've had since I first started writing my stories on receipt paper all that time ago. Time moves funny here, flowing slow and fast all at once like molasses out of a shotgun. It's a good thing I've been keeping a journal. I've got a few moments before my laptop dies, and I think now would be the perfect time transpose my journal entries before the battery runs out or the blood loss gets me. Right now it's a race to see what happens first. I'm gonna do some Ozerlane stuff real quick. Wait, let me just get my dailies underway. Very professional streams here at Yu-nee channel. Very professional streams. Before any of you worry, I've already called Tom. He said he's on his way here to give me a ride to the hospital. Right after he picks up dinner for the Ledford orphans, John, Ben, and little sister. Tom and the other deputies have been taking turns checking in on and bringing them food in an attempt to make the whole thing less tragic. They've been living on their own ever since the incident. That totally did not happen, and anyone who says otherwise is a darn liar. Go off on another tangent, I guess. I guess I'll get up to it and type up my journal entries while I still can. 11:02:17, 9 p.m. So much has happened here since the Halloween incident that we aren't allowed to talk about. I've been much busier than usual dealing with the aftermath, as well as the cult. The mathematists have been cleaning out our inventory on a daily basis, planning ahead for some kind of secret event that I only get to hear about in hushed mutterings and whispers. Night is coming earlier, and the weather is getting colder. 11:03:17. 2 a.m. The man in the trench coat is back. He's standing just outside the gas station door, staring in. He's been there for almost an hour now. On the bright side, I haven't had a customer come in since he showed up. On the not so bright side, I can't help but feel like he's trying to put thoughts into my head. He won't be able to, though. I've had way too much practice. Kiefer came in earlier today, before the sun went down, and sat in a booth drinking coffee for a while. Thought Kiefer was dead. Oh, welcome back, Tomato. Ugh, something caught in my throat. Eventually, Spencer Middleton showed up. Spencer had a word with Kiefer, then came storming up to my register, screaming at the top of his lungs. He grabbed the display of lotto scratch-offs and threw it across the room. It was obvious that something had upset him. And that's when I took the earplugs out. By the way, was everything okay, Mato? Nothing bad happened there? Everything okay? I asked stupidly. I knew darn well everything was never okay. Did you hear a word I just said? Spencer asked. I explained to him that I had taken to wearing earplugs in an effort to drown out the sounds of screaming that periodically radiate through the air vents. I guess the screams must have stopped a while ago, or maybe I'd imagined them. Either way, I didn't need the earplugs anymore. At this point, Tom walked into the store, his hair looking even whiter than normal. Spencer, I could see, became instantly aware of the deputy's presence. "Where is he?" he half whispered, half growled. "Where is the other one?" "Carlos?" I asked. Spencer sighed. "Sure. Carlos. He's not due for another 20 minutes. When he gets here, tell him we need to have a chat." With that, Spencer Middleton let out a shrill whistle and left the store. Kiefer jumped out of his seat and followed close behind. Tom helped me pick up the mess and put the lotto display back together without asking a single question. I wish more people could be like Tom. When Carlos got to work, he told me that he had been having strange dreams. Dreams of something enormous, living, breathing, underground. The dreams always end the same way, with the gas station collapsed into a giant sinkhole. I told him that Spencer was looking for him. That's when Carlos grew solemn and asked me if he could show me something. In the freezer, behind a stack of boxes labeled non-prior, whatever the heck that means, they've been here as long as I've worked here, there's a moving blanket. And inside that blanket is another Kiefer. Okay, that answers my question. My first question for Carlos was, "You stole the body back?" He looked at the ground and shook his head sheepishly, like a toddler that just got busted for cooking meth. "You killed another one?" I asked. Carlos explained. "It was an accident. Again." "Oh, okay. I'm glad everything's okay, Mato." 3 a.m. The man in the trench coat is finally gone. He left claw marks on the glass of the front door. I checked the security footage to confirm my suspicion. He always stays just outside the range of our cameras. Why can't I remember what his face looked like? 3:30 a.m. Marlboro was the first customer in the store after the man in the trench coat left. I told him that I was surprised he was still alive. He must have took this for a compliment and said, "Thank you." I asked him if he was ready for the big event, but then he just stared at me blankly. I could tell he had no idea what I was talking about, so I filled him in on how I had put it all together. The usual cultist activity, the whispers, the buying up all of our supplies. I could tell that something was about to happen. Marlborough went pale in the face as I was talking, then ran out of the gas station before I could finish, the 99-cent frozen drink still in his hand. I know I should write up an inventory loss slip for the theft, but I just can't bring myself to do it. As hard as it is to explain, there's just something about Marlborough that makes me genuinely feel sorry for him. "6 a.m. I mean, only $1. I see why you let him go." I caught myself digging again. I don't know how long I was out there or who was running the store while I was gone. The hole is so deep now that I nearly couldn't climb out on my own. I should maybe think about considering the possibility of one day asking a doctor if this is normal. Just now? 8 a.m. Marlborough is currently crying in the dry storage closet. Through his sobs, I could barely make out the story. Marlborough was sent on some kind of vision quest for the last week and has no idea what the other cultists have been stocking up for. When he went back to the compound earlier tonight, he found the whole place completely deserted. Beds were left unmade, some plates had food on them, a fire was still burning in the fireplace. Everyone's clothes were still in their personal milk crates next to their sleeping bags, but people, all of the people, were simply gone. Marlborough isn't taking this very well, but I have a business to run, so I asked Carlos to help me carry him into the dry storage area. I figure he can work through some stuff in there, and then maybe when he's done, he'll just, I don't know, go home? 11:04:17. 9 p.m. The exterminators just left. They say they got all of the snakes this time, but I have my doubts. 11:05:17. 5 p.m. Kiefer came into the store again and made some thinly veiled threats. He asked about Carlos too, but I told him that I was tired of being the go-between, and that if he had business between Carlos, if he had business with Carlos, he needed to take it up with Carlos. That's when Kiefer started getting weird. "You know this place is just a big experiment and you're the little mouse." I asked Kiefer to buy something or leave, and so he bought a pack of toothpaste and started to undress in the store and then rubbed the toothpaste on his naked body. "They tell me that something is wrong with your brain. Is that true?" I tried to be polite and avert my eyes as I answered. "Yeah. You have some kind of mental condition?" I answered again. "Yeah. That's too bad." At this point, Kiefer was completely naked. He walked over to the frozen drink machine and filled a large cup with a sugary red concoction before turning it upside down on top of his head. Then he shook himself violently like a wet dog, flinging bits of cold, sticky debris across everything from the ceiling to the walls, some of it even landing on my face, but I tried not to let him see my flinch. I knew this was all just an attempt to intimidate me, and I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. Speaking of sugary red concoctions, I want to try selling soda at cons. I suppose you could, but there's probably some kind of like licensing and requirements you gotta go through to sell food that isn't yours. Unless you made it, then maybe you can sell it. But you'd still have to check the guidelines. Oh, you did? Okay. Custom soda does sound pretty good. "What is it exactly?" he asked as he crossed back to where his pile of clothes waited for him. "What?" I asked. "What is your condition? Schizophrenia, paranoia, meningitis, the gay?" "No," I answered. "I don't sleep." "You don't sleep?" You don't sleep." He sounded genuinely interested. "Like, ever?" "The gay!" I can't fall asleep. I haven't slept a single day since high school. It's a rare genetic condition with no cure and no treatment, and one day it will kill me. But until then, I handle the effects as best as I can. Kiefer nodded. "That must be it. That must be why he can't reach you. Why who can't reach me? What made you want to sell soda at conventions, if you don't mind me asking? Right then, Spencer came into the store. He threw a blanket around Kiefer and ushered him out to the waiting SUV. A moment later, he came back into the store and offered me $100 for the security tape from tonight. I wonder what I'll spend my $100 on. Well, people at conventions are usually warm and sweaty. That they are. That they are. So there's a demand for things to get them cold. Yeah, and I guess they're not exactly keen on drinking water. So it's like a lot of people don't ever want to drink water for some reason. The soda being one of them. Okay, that could sell. That sounds kind of interesting. The food always seems to sell pretty reliably. I wonder what kind of soda you make. I'm curious. 9 p.m. I was beginning to suspect something wasn't quite right in the store. Cherry soda. I could use some cherry soda. Yeah, you could try that. Maybe make sure you have a couple other flavors too, though, just in case. I've been finding any empty candy bar wrappers strewn about, security tapes mysteriously deleted, strange noises coming through the walls in the middle of the night when I should be alone. At least more strange noises than usual. At first I assumed it was just the raccoons. But now I know the truth. Now I know that Marlboro has been living here for the last 2 days. He just walked out of the supply closet wearing a bathrobe, nodded to me as he grabbed a stick of meat jerky, and went into the bathroom. And it had not even occurred to me that Marlboro never left. We'll sell them in glass bottles with anime OC labels. That sounds like a good idea. I'd like to see that. I'd like to try that. Reminds me of a convention that I went to once. They sold some kind of sodas. I think they said it was like homemade or something, but they were really good ones, and I miss that. I miss that convention. I miss that soda. I can still get them now, but I don't want to drive out. But the sodas were really good. I miss that convention. I miss anime conventions. There's one around here, but it's really lame and boring. And samey every year. And the people don't always want to talk. Anyway. My apologies. 11:06:17. 4 a.m. It finally happened. I suppose it was only a matter of time. I know I should feel regret or shame or any of the other emotions that normal people feel after something like this happens, but all I feel is embarrassed. I came to a couple hours ago with the shovel in my hand. I had been digging again, and this time I had made some serious progress. The hole was at least 7 feet deep. The steep walls made of loose, red clay. It took me a while to realize that I was staring up into an inky black night peppered with uncountable stars. When some of the bigger celestials started to move, I realized that those stars were actually just the soulless red eyes of the mutant raccoons staring down at me over the edge of the hole. Probably looking for food. Those shameless beggars. I chucked the shovel out of the hole, and that's when I heard it. Imagine the sound of a butcher's knife hitting a watermelon, like solid wet thwack. Now imagine the watermelon gurgling and falling over like a sack of potatoes. Oh man, this metaphor has really gotten away from me. When I climbed out of the hole, I saw the shovel standing upright, with the business end firmly lodged inside the open chest wound of a still twitching Kiefer. The Kiefer was dead before I got to his side. In a final act of defiance, he had turned both of his middle fingers up to me. I felt just the slightest amount of respect for him before I went into a mental state that I can only describe. I lost my spot. As subdued panic. The first thing I wanted to do was find something to wrap the body in because surely Spencer Middleton would come for it soon. When I went into the gas station, I was surprised to find that Marlborough had taken it upon himself to work the cash register while I was gone. He was ringing up one of our regulars, Charles, a great big fat man that always buys soap and boiled peanuts. I nabbed a tarp off the shelf and took it outside. That's when I learned something. Kefir is heavy. Like, really heavy. I understand that a human body is basically just a meaty, fleshy water balloon full of guts and excrement, but nothing could prepare me for how leaky and gross and heavy a dead man can be. It was only by some miracle that I managed to drag Kiefer through the back door and into the freezer without being seen. It took all of my strength to pull the mass behind the boxes and onto the stack with the other three. When I finally finished, I'd worked up a sweat, and even though the cold of the freezer wasn't enough to keep me cool, as I stood there letting my breath come back and the adrenaline wear off, I took stock of my situation. That's when it dawned on me. There were 4 Kiefers in that freezer with me. 4 Kiefers. Where the heck did the other 2 come from? The freezer door opened and Marlborough entered, dragging a dead Kiefer by the legs. He stopped and made eye contact with me. When he saw the Kiefers at my feet, I said the only thing I could think of. Well, this is awkward. Marlborough and I decided to open a bottle of Strega liqueur and have a few drinks. He explained that he had accidentally killed a Kiefer a couple times. I totally understood. The guy was just so easy to kill. At one point, Carlos came into the freezer to grab a box of cookie dough. He didn't even acknowledge all the Kiefers. Alright, now that entry's over, but still on this part, I'll rechat. Can you imagine the watermelon being crushed by tomboys? Watermelon crushing ASMR. You know, I wonder if that exists. It probably does. Imagine being the watermelon. It's a painful but pleasant way to go out, isn't it? My laptop's battery is currently at 2%. It's obvious now that I won't have time to transcribe the rest of my journals before it dies. I don't have time. Gosh, that is true. It becomes watermelon. I don't have time to tell you how I ended up at the bottom of this hole underneath the store with a broken leg, but I can tell you that I hear someone moving around above me, which is good because I don't think I'm alone down here. If you're reading this, it means I managed to upload my story. If you're not reading this, then I don't know, what even are you? Someone just called my name from the top of the precipice. I think it was Carlos. I wonder what happened to Tom. Why didn't Tom ever show up? Come to think of it, I seem to remember Tom didn't survive the Halloween incident. Wait, who the heck have I been talking to this entire time? I promise that if I survive long enough to recharge my battery, I will come back and tell the rest. Until then, I guess the story is to be continued. Continue reading. Also, I'm drawing the fossil mons. Finished Amora and now it's Shield on, but I don't know how to make it interesting. Any ideas? Well, you were just drawing the sprites, weren't you? Or is this for like the landscape thing? You can make Shield on like charging or defending against something. Oh, it's for the keychains. Oh, okay. You can make shield on, like, put it in like a defensive stance or draw it charging. But I think given shield on stats, a defensive stance would make more sense. And a offensive stance like charging or something would be more fitting for whatever the headbutt Pokemon is called that I forgot the name of. Cranidos, yeah. So something offensive for Cranidos and something defensive for shield on me. It could make sense. Kind of like the poses, the pose for Cranidos in the official artwork, but you know, with something more unique. But they don't put a shield on in any defensive pose for that, so I think that would be a good opportunity to draw it in one. All shield on poses are just him standing. Yeah, they are. You could like make him look angry and make his draw his head lowered a little bit, angle it a little, and you know, like really bend his legs. One is forward, the other one is pushed out forward. The front legs are pushed out forward, and the rear legs, the hind legs, are pushed out backwards, and they're bent at the knees. And you know, like, kind of make it look defensive. I know it's a little hard to make shield on look interesting because it's kind of flat on the ground, but that's the idea I've got, at least. Ugh. But if you want, you could also draw stuff like bouncing off of Shieldon's face plate. Now we are on the Dark God Part 6, updated March 23rd, 2020. Hi everybody! It's me, Jerry from the gas station at the edge of town. Proud to be the newest member of the team. The owners were so impressed with how I managed to stay inside the store for several days without leaving or going insane that they offered me a full-time position while the regular clerk is out recovering from his leg injury. Happy Monday, y'all! The other guy asked me to do him a small favor while he's getting some much-needed rest and relaxation. He gave me the password to his laptop and detailed instructions to transcribe his journal entries from last week. In exchange, he agreed to keep me on as a full-time assistant after he gets back. I get to learn what to expect on the job through first-hand documentation, and he gets to continue his weird little blog thing. Oh, that's what I call a one-win. If I'm being honest, this is probably the best thing that could have happened to me right now. Ever since the program mysteriously dissolved at the Mathematis computed community, I've been feeling very lost and vulnerable. I've been losing weight and having trouble sleeping, and when I do, I keep having these weird dreams of some enormous being deep below the gas station waiting to devour us all. Clearly a mistake was made and I was overlooked. If any of my old brothers and sisters are out there and see this post, please contact me. Tell the seniors they forgot me. I'm not mad. I miss you. I love you. Before I get started, some guys in suits came by and suggested that if this blog were going to continue, then I make a PSA. If there's anybody still alive that read the story about what happened here on Halloween, don't wait for symptoms to start. Please go to the nearest emergency room or call the Center for Disease Control and tell them you are experiencing the effects of Ronald's syndrome. Anyway, back to the journals. I'm going to do my best because the guy's handwriting is awful. But here's the parts I could read. 11:07:07, 7 p.m. The man in the trench coat was standing out back when I went to take out the garbage tonight. I don't know why the man in the trench coat keeps visiting my store, why I've never gotten a good look at him. He was just standing at the tree line beyond the dumpsters, staring as he ever did. Tonight, I stared back. The hinge of his jaw began halfway up his face where his nose should have been. The edges pulled back to either ear in a skeletal grin. His tiny, milky white eyes were beads behind the oily black hairline that hung down straight in bangs all the way to his cheek jowl. His impossibly wide mouth bisected the head between greasy hair and wet flesh. Drool, I would assume. We stood there, 15 feet apart, staring at one another for what might have been 10 seconds or 10 minutes until finally the man in the trench coat turned away. His legs bent funny in a way that human legs shouldn't be able to bend, and he landed on all fours before galloping off into the woods. I don't know if I've seen the last of the man in the trench coat. Holy shit. Did you guys read that? This is some crazy shit. Sorry, Jerry, again. I promise I'm not going to do the running commentary thing. I just had to say, jeez, you know, this is some weird stuff. I mean, I remember him telling me a couple weeks ago to go outside and talk to a man in a trench coat. Super glad I did it now. What the heck? Okay, that's it. I'm done. Back to the transcriptions. The next page is soaked in blood and completely unreadable, so I'm going to have to skip that part. Hundreds and hundreds of them. She had never seen so many in one place before, not even in her dreams. Before she left, she told me I would see her again. Was that supposed to be a warning? Or a flirtation? 3:23 a.m. It's quieter night than I'm used to. The package from yesterday afternoon still sits on the counter where I left it. The label is made out to me with a return address I don't recognize. The rectangular parcel is wrapped like a Christmas present with red and yellow stripes and feels heavy. I would say it's just the right size for a dead cat. I can't think of any realistic reason I shouldn't open the package, but there is something in the back of my mind telling me that to open this would be tantamount to opening Pandora's box. The contents of this little parcel will irrevocably change the course of my life in a way that may have seemed impossible before. I feel like this box is full of butterflies, ready to create tsunamis, and I'm just not sure I'm ready for that yet. I think I'm going to teach Marlboro how to clean the drink machines. 3:47 a.m. Marlboro's passed out in a hammock in the in the supply closet. I think he finished that bottle on his own. I guess I'll go clean the drink machines by myself. 5:45 a.m. The hand plants are growing faster than I had anticipated. They are now past the elbows, almost to the shoulders. I saw that the crop had caught a curious coyote that got too close. It was not pretty. I also noticed that Rocco is still alive. I caught him sitting on the roof, tossing food to the crop of hand plants. And this is why they're growing so fast. They're eating way too much. If this gets out of control, I may have to torch this crop just like the others. And I don't want to. It sends shivers down my spine whenever I hear the way they scream. Open the Chaos Theory box. Open it! Oh, I remember the other game I wanted to stream. Another game I was thinking about streaming was Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Or, well, they call it Philosopher's Stone. I guess that's a European title. But, and the Philosopher's Stone on PlayStation 1. How does that one sound? Are you familiar with the Harry Potter games? They're kind of like Zelda games, actually. 7:30 a.m. Carlos came in for his morning shift looking pretty terrible. He filled up on coffee and told me that he hadn't been sleeping too well, and the bad dreams had been keeping him from getting a restful night. I wonder if I should tell Carlos about my condition. He asked about the gift wrap package sitting on the counter. I told him that it came with a post yesterday, and I didn't know who it was from. He asked if I was going to open it, and I told him that I had a bad feeling and pretty much decided to never, ever open it. Only familiar with the most recent one. I can't compare them. I mean, really, I probably shouldn't be talking about the Harry Potter games when I only played one. And it was, second one, Chamber of Secrets. The Americans renaming it to Sorcerer's Stone because they don't know the Philosopher's Stone. It is a little odd. I do wonder why they changed that. But, let me send you some gameplay of it. Now, admittedly, I sent you a long play, but you don't have to watch the whole thing. But you can skip to any part you like and you'll be able to see what the gameplay looks like. But it's very story-oriented. And it's a Zelda-like, and I love me some Zelda. I miss old Zelda. I don't want to play Breath of the Wild, it looks boring. But yeah. 10 a.m. I be right back in 3 hours watching that video you sent me. At 10 a.m. Yeah, just like a few minutes should be enough to skip to any random part. Should be enough to tell you what it's like. 10 a.m. I decided to open the package. Without any fanfare or drumroll, I'll just tell you what I found inside. It was a brand new laptop computer. I've never owned my own laptop before, and the only computer that ever belonged to me was a crappy little Tandy 1000 that I put together as a kid. I've always used the library computer lab, or the browser on my phone to access the internet. This could be a game changer. The box also contains a signal repeater and some other gizmos. I know this is crazy, but I think I may actually be able to access the internet from the gas station now. There was a handwritten note at the bottom of the package. Hello. I left a comment on your page. There's something I want to tell you. I'm enjoying reading these stories you're writing, but I think if you actually sit down and write out one story at a time, that you will get a lot more upvotes. It's very good, I'm not saying it's bad, but it right now seems like a lot of half stories thrown together. I think you'd do great if you actually write out a whole story at a time. I bet you could really get a lot of upvotes and attention. It gets kind of confusing now. Maybe start with when you got there and work your way up to now. I bet that would be super awesome. I'm so fascinated, but a little muddled as well. I can tell you have a great talent for writing, but I just thought maybe I'd offer a suggestion for help. A suggestion to help. But please do not take offense, it's just something I was thinking. Hope all is going well for you. Yeah, back in the day, a lot of creepypastas had their start on Reddit. Not all of them were on 4chan. They weren't all spooky green tech. And I think they probably originally started on 4chan, but you know, they had a home on Reddit too. They still do, to an extent. Though it's really hard to find some of the old ones, which kind of sucks. Like, I couldn't find the Haunted Stitch creepypasta, which sucks because I like that one the most. Oh, I mean, not the most, but it's one of my favorites, but I can't seem to find it. So that's a shame. Great. Another one of my readers tracked me down. I'm going to have to figure out how people keep finding me and put a stop to this. But thank you, whoever you are, for the laptop. I'm definitely keeping it. 10:15 a.m. I turned on the Wi-Fi card and noticed that for some reason there are dozens of secured networks around the gas station, most of which have 4 or 5 bars. And the names for their networks are pure gobbledygook, like this one. 1E7G7C7TA11 Guy 232331324. And tall guys in between a bunch of random numbers and letters. What the heck is transmitting Wi-Fi out here? 11 a.m. A man came into the store to buy a gas can a couple hours ago. I didn't think much of it at the time, but then he came back in asking me if we could help him out with something down the road. I never got his name, but he was a big guy. Tan skin and a thick beard. He said he was having car problems. I told him I wasn't a car guy, but he insisted that he didn't need a car guy, he just needed someone else to see what he was saying. Smallbro agreed to watch the computer, while Carlos and I followed the bearded man down the hill and around the curve, close to the spot where Carlos saw that thing in the woods. He couldn't remember what happened that night. After we got everything sorted out with Spencer and things started to go back to normal. I asked Carlos what it was that he saw in the woods that sent him running in such a careless panic. But he just shook his head and said he didn't know. The mind is a funny thing, and memories aren't the most reliable. I realize that I'm not the only person from the gas station with a list of try and forget stories. This guy is this weird gobbledygook. Open E621? I wonder what could be on it. I sure hope I won't find any furry fan art that involves a cheese grater. The man's car was parked on the side of the road, close to the same spot that Kiefer's SUV was broken down. So my car started acting funny, the guy said as we neared his vehicle. I began to wonder why we had walked this whole way when our vehicle would be quite useful in case of a dead battery or a random bear attack. The guy kept going. I pulled over onto the side of the road when my electrical started going haywire. I killed the engine, then when I tried to turn it over again, nada. Okay, so what I'm referring to is this art piece that somebody made of a furry getting run down the anus with a cheese grater. And yes, there is blood. It's yeah, it's Guro. It's a little bit of Guro. It's not like blood and guts everywhere, but there's definitely blood. As for why I know that, I've seen a lot of things. As for why somebody made that, I don't know. I didn't make it. Yeah, it's not all that can be seen should be seen, or needs to be seen. I think people can live without seeing the cheese grater. It's not as awful as it sounds, as one might initially think, but it's not, pleasant either. I could see at this point that the hood was open. The man was driving a big black SUV similar to the one Kiefer owned, but newer and shinier. I don't see what's so weird about that. You need us to call a tow, or the man cut Carlos off rudely, I might add. I popped the hood, but everything was in order. I thought maybe he just needed some gas, so I went up to the station. Then when I got back, I saw this. We rounded to the front of the car and saw this that he was being so vague about. A small oak tree, maybe 4 or 5 years old, was growing up from the ground beneath the car, through the engine, and stretched upwards at least 9 feet. The trunk of the tree had swallowed a decent portion of the engine, and from the look of it, the car had been parked there for years. Interesting, I said, and you're sure that wasn't there when you started driving? Before he could answer, he spun his head around and looked at the forest. You boys hear that? He asked. We stood still and listened, but I couldn't hear anything. No, I answered. Carlos shrugged. You boys know what an anglerfish is? The bearded man asked as he walked to the back door and opened it. Yes, I answered. The bearded man pulled up a secret compartment from beneath the floorboard and retrieved a large automatic rifle. I'm not a gun guy, and I can't tell you what kind of gun. I'm not a gun guy, and I can't tell you what kind of gun it was, but it was big and impressive and cool looking. The guy checked the clip and clicked something on the gun that could have been the safety. Again, I'm not a gun guy, but it sounded super cool. Carlos put a hand on my shoulder and slowly backed away from the man with the gun, pulling me with him. But the man didn't seem to mind us one bit. He was focused on whatever he heard in the woods. Right, how would you rate it compared to that one Sandy Cheeks image? I do not know the Sandy Cheeks image. I may need to see it. One thing that's kind of... I do this too. But one thing that's kind of difficult with, like, shock value or famous stuff on the internet is when people refer to it as they give it vague descriptions, and you're not given a lot to go off of on what they're referring to, just that it's that thing. There's a funny image actually where somebody asks for some context and somebody named dipshit61 or something says, dude. I think the image has like 3 comments and it goes something like, what? That's so horrible, I can't believe that. Then person 2 says, context? I don't know what everyone is talking about. And then person 1 says, dude, you don't want to know. Oh, the horror. And they're named dipshit261. It's so funny because, like, vague posters deserve to be hated at least a little bit. I love anglerfish. Anglerfish are pretty interesting. They're like, I think, one of the more famous abyssal fish. Yeehaw! Vacuuming sure is fun. Use the normal vacuum cleaner, right? Use the normal vacuum cleaner, right? The SpongeBob looks so cute here. Is that the one? I kind of want to look it up, but I'm not going to recognize it when I see it. Which sucks, because it sounds really funny. Like, people give these visceral reactions to shock content porn, but sometimes I think they're kind of funny, like the bowling ball animation. Or one of my favorites is it's a bit of a genre. It's of dragons having sex with the vehicles. And one of my favorites is the one where a dragon is like ramming Lightning McQueen all the way through. It's goofy and it's stupid, but it's so funny to me that it's my TF2 spray. Okay, let's see Danny G. Cockmore. Tyson. Oh, that one! That's so goofy. That's so dumb. I love it. Oh my goodness. Downvoted by 127 points. Truly incredible. Oh, the Among Us one, I think, is my favorite. I don't know why he doesn't have testicles. Truly only the greatest works of art on E621. Lightning McQueen is a super dork. Oh my gosh, everything with Among Us has been so funny. I don't know why people hated that meme, it was the best. Thank you for showing me that, that was pretty funny. Oh, let's see. If I'm right, you boys have an anglerfish in them woods. He's putting something out there to lure me in. Makes me think I'm hearing something I'm not. And when I go looking for the one thing, BAM! It attacks. Oh, like a siren? I asked. The man looked over me at his shoulder. The man looked at me over his shoulder with a smirk and said, "Yeah, like a siren. I may want to get out of here. This could get dangerous. Don't worry about me. I've dealt with these things before. I'll be fine." The man pointed his gun and marched into the woods while Carlos and I made our way back to the gas station. 2 p.m. It's time for me to go home. I haven't used the laptop yet, but maybe tomorrow I'll start to type up these journals. This is long, my goodness. I've been on this for nearly an hour. After this part, I'm going to conclude Tales from the Gas Station for today, and I'll just pick up the next couple parts tomorrow. Did Shieldon and Granados. Now just Tortuga and Tyrant. I look forward to seeing how they came out of the Shieldon and Granados. I hope Tortuga and Tyrant come out well. I feel like Tyrant is kind of one of the better looking Fossilmon. Like, they all look good to varying extents. I think Shieldon is kind of an exception because its fully evolved form is like really ugly. And so is the Granados, the evolved Granados, but the Tyrant and Aurora, I forgot what it was called, but the Aurora one that's meant to look like a Brontosaurus. That one looks, both of them look good when they're evolved. Gen 4 full Evos are just really weird. Like, yeah, I don't like some of them. I don't know. It's not all of them, but like, some of them are just kind of ugly. It's like no wonder people loved Lucario so much. It's one of the only ones that looks presentable. So now that I think I finally understand the appeal of Lucario by comparison. Shout out to Turtwig though, that was my first ever Pokemon. I do have a soft spot for a Torterra. Lucario, the original Aurifar. Like, I kid you not, people started using the term Aura a lot after Lucario really took off. And it's crazy to think that one Pokemon was so influential it influenced a language. Shout out to Torterra, my boy. Free him. He ain't doing nothing wrong. He ain't burned them crops. It was clearly Infernape. 11:08, 6 p.m. It's getting dark so early these days. I noticed that the bearded man's SUV is still at the bottom of the hill with a tree growing through it. I wouldn't call that a good sign. 11. I burned the rest of the hand plants. I finally know what's going on. A long time ago, I noticed what looked like strange mushrooms growing in a patch near the dumpster behind the gas station. I didn't think much about them, except that it was strange that Rocco's brood wouldn't go near them. When I took a closer look, I could have sworn that they looked just like baby fingers poking out of the ground. As the weather got warmer, I kept an eye on the crops. They started getting longer and looking more and more distinguishably similar to human fingers. I swear they even started growing fingernails. Sometimes I would bend them at the digits, to squash a bug that wandered too close. Eventually, the mushrooms started sprouting leaves, and the finger sections continued to stretch out, creating what could only be described as hands. Human hands. They would ball up into fists during the daytime and open up in the moonlight. I dug one of them up one day when we were really slow at work, and I called Farmer Jr. to ask for his professional opinion. To the untrained eye, the hand plant looked just like a regular human hand. Smaller than an adult's, but larger than a child's. Adolescent. Teenager, maybe. At the wrist, it turned into a gnarled root that smelled like sassafras, and throughout the tiny plant leaves were sprouting. Farmer Jr. stood in the gas station, looking it over for a while before asking me if we had any more of those things. I lied and told him no. I asked the owners what they wanted me to do. They thought it over for a couple days and then they told me to keep them. I think they expected to be able to make money off them somehow, but eventually everyone forgot they were there. Everyone but me. And Farmer Jr., of course. I was thinking about the bearded man when I first heard the sound of a baby crying somewhere outside. I was alone in the store and my first instinct was not the heroic one that most people may have had, to run outside and see where the poor baby was. My first instinct was more callous and rational, and in the form of a question: how the heck did a baby get way out here without me hearing it coming? Something wasn't right. The sound of the cries, which I could deduce were coming from the tree line, were getting louder and louder and more desperate. I looked around for Marlboro, but I couldn't find him anywhere. Hear baby crying, deliberately ignores it. Based. What? What? You just doing this out, don't you? What? 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 I looked around for Marlboro, but I couldn't find him anywhere. If I was going to investigate the potential forest baby, I was going to have to do it alone. I remember the bearded man hearing the siren call of the thing he called an anglerfish. I remember Carlos's sound of crunching and the strega. And absolutely no part of me believed that I would be safe if I went into the woods, or that there was really a baby crying out there. But what if? I grabbed a flashlight and went out back. The crying seemed to be moving deeper into the forest, quickly, like the crying baby were being carried off by something that didn't have to stop and move around trees or physical barriers. Potential forest babies just result after I impregnate Pala. I'm very happy that you've been enjoying Palaris so much lately. I walked into the forest just far enough to find the last thing I ever expected to find. It seems that the hand plants had extended slightly further than the little patch outside the gas station. I find it interesting that they were called hand plants even before they turned into hands. I assumed they meant hand as in size. Those plants that I had been watching and burning whenever they got too aggressive were not as controlled as I had previously believed, because out here, just a few steps into the woods, was a hand plant that I had missed, that I had never trimmed or culled or burned, that was left free to grow as large and wild as it possibly could. Out here was a hand plant that had grown so large it had fallen over. It had grown past to the shoulder. It had grown its own head and torso and crotch and legs. Out here was a full human body covered in tiny leaves, huddled on the ground and attached to the soil by thick talons of brown roots. And the weirdest part of all, the body was one that I recognized. The body, the fully grown hand plant, was Kiefer. I don't know what possessed me to touch him. Maybe I just wanted to make sure that he was real, as if touching him would prove that one way or the other. When I did, his eyes opened and he cracked a smile. He could not move. The roots had him firmly stuck in place, but this Kiefer plant could talk. And talk he did. We stayed out there talking for over an hour. I won't go into everything the Kiefer plant said, but I will say this. There is something under the gas station. Something big and powerful. Something plotting. And I've been working for years in a cloud of this dark god's fart. I felt extra terrible setting the fully developed kefir plant on fire as I burned the rest of the crops of hand plants. But honestly, what choice did I have? When I got back to the gas station, Spencer was waiting for me. He knew I knew. And I knew he knew I knew. I was halfway expecting what came next, but not expecting him to enjoy himself quite so much. Spencer locked the front doors and then proceeded to beat the crap out of me. I'd like to say I got a few good hits in as well, but that would be a huge lie. I don't think I laid a single finger on him. Although I did mess his knuckles up pretty good on my face, so I have that going for me. I knew he knew I knew he knew I knew. Spencer dragged me across the gas station to the hallway, past the bathrooms, past the walk-in cooler, to that big strange door that I had only just noticed a couple of weeks ago. If it were possible for me to pass out, I'm sure I would be unconscious right now. "Why are you doing this?" I asked as he banged on the door 3 times. There was a sound from the other side, and then Spencer yelled, "Open up! It's me!" The door cracked open, and Spencer dragged me into a room I had never seen before. It looked like an old office. There was a desk next to a wall of monitors with security feeds from all over the store and the perimeter. Security feeds from cameras I never knew existed. In the middle of the room was a large hole that looked at it like it had been created with a team of jackhammers. "It's time for you to meet my boss," Spencer said as he dragged me to the edge of the hole. "Kefir," I said, to which Spencer let out a hearty laugh. No, not Kefir. My boss put Kefir out there and hired me to watch him. My boss is much bigger than some idiot politician. I half expected Spencer to go into the cliche movie villain exposition rant, but instead he sparted me right into this hole. We are back again. Okay. Should I wait again, or should I just keep going? Well, I'll just go off the previous answer. Got a fidget cube here. It's kind of nice. I don't remember how much it cost me, but I got it at a dollar store a few years ago. It's nice. Only now am I starting to use it. I didn't use it much because my hands get tired, so I prefer to let them rest. I think my leg is broken. At least I assume that's what the bone poking out means, but hey, I'm no doctor. I'd be really worried right now if it weren't for the fact that I stole Spencer's cell phone in the scuffle. And just as I expected, Spencer has the same network as Kefir, which means he somehow has service. I put in a call to Tom's direct number, so I'm sure he'll be along shortly. Until he gets here, I'm just passing the time, updating my journals. Somebody just dropped the laptop into this hole with me. Maybe it was Spencer. Maybe he thinks I'm dead. Maybe I am. Again, I'm not a doctor. Whoever it was, I think I might have heard the sound of boot spurs clicking against the tile as he walked away. I guess I'll boot this thing up and start transcribing my journal. Before it's too late. Was that the cowboy? Okay, so this is the last of his journals. You're probably wondering to yourself, where was Jerry while Spencer was beating the crap out of poor old Jack? Well, I had gone into town to see a movie. Yes, I went and watched Thor Ragnarok. Ugh. Ugh, you watched that? Ugh. Ugh. Brother, ugh. Why that? Why that movie, brother? Anyway, if you haven't seen it, go see it. It was awesome. I guess I'm lucky I went when I did. Otherwise, the Spencer guy might have tossed me into that hole as well. I was the one that found Jack. When I came back to the gas station, I couldn't find anyone anywhere, so I went searching until I noticed that door at the edge of the hall cracked open slightly. I found a really poorly made bomb behind the register, but it didn't take long to disassemble. You can thank the mandatory bomb building class, the mathematist program, for that. No big deal, just me being my typical heroic self. I asked Carlos to help me haul Jack up out of the hole. And then Carlos moved him to an undisclosed location for a few days while his leg mends. When he gets back, I'll let him have this laptop to continue his little blog thing. Until then, it's just me, Carlos, and the raccoons. How does Jack usually end these things? Oh yeah, to be continued. Edit. I just got myself Edit. I just got myself digging. Okay, so we're at part 7 now, but that's where I'm going to conclude it for today. That's where I'll conclude Tales from the Gas Station for today. I almost want to read Abandoned by Disney, but I don't know about the copyright claims. What else can I stream? What else can I stream today? No, I can't stream, I don't think I can stream Harry Potter. I don't even have the means to do that right now. I don't have anything set up. I shouldn't do that. I could react to some, like, just some YouTube videos. There's one that I like about that time Sears, I think it was Sears, sold some Kirby R34 in their store, and they didn't know what it was. They just thought it was King DDD eating and drooling. They didn't know it was him making an Ahegao face having sex with a Waddle Dee. But I don't know. I already watched it, so I'm not sure if I should. Let's see, what else did you recommend? Let's see, well... Russian Sleep Experiment is a little shorter. Let's see. Where can we find this? I kind of like Night Scribe, just because I think its UI is really nice. I don't know what Night Scribe is, other than a... Okay. Okay, yeah, so it's like a place for all kinds of horror stories. Russian Sleep Experiment. I'm sorry, but I kind of don't want to touch NES Godzilla with a 10-foot pole, because... You know, it's a good one. I agree. But, it's like really long. Oh, Cranidos looks really cute. If you ask me, though, I think maybe, like... make Shieldon's bent legs more prominent. It's like, even if you have to make them a bit longer so that they can curve, And so that he can look more defensive, and maybe angle the face downwards more. Oh, wait until you get back and shit. No, I'm not gonna eat it. I was gonna eat a granola bar, but I shouldn't. I want to overeat. I've been gaining weight lately, unfortunately. I gotta cut my portions. Brother, did I say something wrong? Well, Sarah Foxhound is a new outfit today. That's pretty cool. Ah! She finished the stream! The 30 minutes? You streamed for 30 minutes? Darn. You know, I may not always be fond of VTubers, but I have to give them some credit when I see it. Sarah Foxhound gets pretty creative with her gags. Oh, let's see. Should I start reading now? I'll wait another couple minutes. So I can recharge emotionally. The brother was in reaction to the Thor Ragnarok quote. Ah. Yeah. Whatever, I guess. I mean, that's what the majority of the population enjoys. They like their Marvel movies. One thing that really gets me about Marvel movies is like people were complaining about how sloppy they are for years, and you know, maybe I just don't know because I didn't watch them, but I remember watching breaking my long pattern of not watching Marvel movies with Deadpool and Wolverine. And it was alright, it was funny, I guess. You know, there was a story there, and it wasn't all bad. But I swear, Deadpool, I came away from it hating Deadpool so much. Like, I have a lot of tolerance for characters that people typically call annoying. But Deadpool, everyone loved that guy, and I hated Deadpool, and it's one of those things, and it made me wonder, like, how is it that people always hated Marvel humor? They hate Marvel movies, but somehow this movie got to pass. I didn't get it. Maybe because it's Deadpool and that's expected from him, but I don't like it. Tyrone is a pain in the rear to draw. Is he? That sucks. You should draw him as an anime girl instead. Should I start with the Russian sleep experiment now, or should I wait? Bro, there's only like 3 personification pieces of its evolution line on my favorite Buru. It stinks. But at least it still looks really cool. Yeah, Amara is the name. Deadpool is one of the most annoying. I fucking hate Deadpool, dude. Like, he just gets people killed for a gag and it's meant to be funny, but it's not even just that. It's just that he's not funny. Like, half of his jokes are just about gay sex. And the other half are like quirky references and fourth wall breaks. And like, some of them are kind of funny. But not most of them, for me at least. I don't really... I don't like... I really don't like Deadpool. Okay, let me just see how many people did abandon my Disney before I decide to dip my toes into what may or may not be illegal. A warning. Okay, so it seems some people read it, just not very many. Alrighty. Then abandoned by Disney it is. And then a Russian sleep experiment will come later if there's still time. Some of you may have heard that the Disney Corporation is responsible for at least one real live ghost town. Disney, if I sound too much like Mr. Creepypasta's narration, please, I would like to apologize. Oh, Discord notice. Oh, that looks good. The tyrant looks really nice. I wonder when they'll make one about Spinosaurus. Make a fossil mon about Spinosaurus. And I will be very, very happy about that. By the way, is it just me or did they stop making fossil mons at some point? No, never mind, they did. They didn't. They still make fossil mons, okay. Some of you may have heard that the Disney, one second. Abandoned by Disney on Night Sky by Slime Beast. Now I'll get started. Some of you may have heard that the Disney Corporation is responsible for at least one real, live ghost town. Disney built the Treasure Island resort in Baker's Bay in the Bahamas. It didn't start as a ghost town. Disney's cruise ships would actually stop at the resort and leave tourists there to relax in luxury. This is a fact. Look it up. And Disney blew $30 million on the place. Yes, $30 million. Then they abandoned it. Disney blamed the shallow waters, too shallow for their ships to safely operate. And there was even blame cast on the workers, saying that since they were from the Bahamas, they were too lazy to work a regular schedule. That's where the factual nature of their story ends. It wasn't because of sand, and it obviously wasn't because foreigners are lazy. Both are convenient excuses. No, I sincerely doubt those reasons were legitimate. Why don't I buy the official story? Because of Mowgli's palace. Okay, since my throat's getting a little dry, I'll read the chat. No. They can be combined, but they can also be whole. It depends on how you... on what you combine them with. Whether you combine them with their proper pieces or not. Like Dracozolt. Well, I don't remember how it went, but... basically, you can combine them. It's just up to you to put the pieces together right. They don't have proper... They don't? I thought I remember some people putting together like the full water type or the dragon type. Let's see, it was a Dracozolt. Yeah, there's like oh. Oh, really? They don't? I mean, they kind of do. They have what the heck? They don't have the full dragon type. Well, they have Arctivish, which is, you know, the full piece. I think. And then they have Dracovish. But it's not... yeah, okay. I see what you mean then. Well, that sucks. At least we have Arctivish. Which is kind of cool. But I do kind of want to... but I'm getting a little distracted, so I kind of want to focus on the story. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's true. Never mind. I thought they had the full pieces somewhere. Yeah, it does look like it's a bit upside down, doesn't it? Oh, but I think I'm reaching my limit for narration right now. Because of Mowgli's palace. Oh, thank you. No, you can continue talking about it, but I'm gonna have to like focus on this for a while and take a kind of space out the chat breaks. Ugh. Keep getting distracted. This is annoying. I gotta do my Ozzer Lane stuff. Only the most professional of streams here. Almost done. It won't take me a second. Because of Mowgli's palace. Near the beachside city of Emerald Isle in North Carolina, Disney began construction of Mowgli's palace in the late 1990s. The concept was a jungle-themed resort with a large, you guessed it, palace in the center of the whole thing. If you aren't familiar with the character of Mowgli, then you might better remember the story, The Jungle Book. If you haven't seen it anywhere else, you know it is the Disney cartoon from decades past. Mowgli is an abandoned child in the jungle, essentially raised by animals and simultaneously threatened and pursued by other animals. Mowgli's palace was a controversial undertaking from the start. Disney bought up a ton of high-priced land for the project, and there was actually a scandal surrounding some of the purchases. The local government claimed eminent domain on people's homes, then turned around and sold the properties to Disney. At one point, a home that had just been constructed was immediately condemned with a little to no explanation. The land grabbed by the government was supposedly for some fictional highway project. Knowing full well what was going on, people started calling it Mickey Mouse Highway. Then there was the concept art. A group of stuffed shirts from Disney Company actually held a city meeting. They intended to tell everyone how lucrative this project was going to be for everyone. When they showed the concept art, this gigantic Indian palace surrounded by jungle, staffed with men and women in loincloths and tribal gear, well, suffice to say, everyone flipped their shit. Mario and Luigi hammering sign. I don't know what to do it. We're talking about a large Indian palace, jungle, and loincloths, not only in the center of a relatively wealthy area, but also a somewhat xenophobic area of the southern USA. It was a questionable mix at that point in history. One member of the crowd tried to storm the stage, but he was quickly subdued by security after he managed to break one of the presentation boards over his knee. Disney took that community and essentially broke it over its knee as well. The houses were razed, the land was cleared, and there wasn't a darn thing anyone could do or say about it. Local TV and newspapers were against the resort at the beginning, but some insane connection between Disney's media holdings and the local venues came into play, and their opinions turned on a dime. So anyway, Treasure Island, the Bahamas. Disney sunk those millions in and then split. The same thing happened with Mowgli's palace. Construction was complete. Visitors actually stayed at the resort. The surrounding communities were flooded with traffic and the usual annoyances associated with an influx of lost and irate tourists. Then it all just stopped. Disney shut it down, and nobody knew what the heck to think. But they were pretty happy about it. Disney's loss was pretty hilarious and wonderful to a large group of folks who didn't want this in the first place. I honestly didn't give the place another thought since hearing it closed over a decade ago. I lived maybe 4 hours from Emerald Isle, so really I only heard the rumblings and didn't experience any of it firsthand. And then I read this article from someone who had explored the Treasure Island resort and posted a whole blog about all the crazy stuff he found there. Stuff just left behind. Things smashed, defaced, probably ruined by the disgruntled former employees who had lost their jobs. Heck, the locals from all around probably had a hand in wrecking that place. People there felt just as angry about Treasure Island as folks here did about Mowgli's palace. Plus, there were rumors that Disney had released their aquarium stock into the local waters when they closed, including sharks. Who wouldn't want to take a few swings at some merchandise after that? Well, what I'm getting at is that this blog about Treasure Island got me thinking. Even though many years had passed since its closing, I figured it might be cool to do some urban exploration at Mowgli's palace. Take some photos, write about my experience, and probably see if there was anything I could take home as a memento. It's a good pasta, it really is. It's one of the classics. I'm not going to say I wasted no time in getting there, because honestly it took me another year after I first found that Treasure Island article to get around to going up to Emerald Isle. Over the course of that year, I did a lot of research on the Palace Resort. Or rather, I tried to. Naturally, no official Disney site or resource made any mention of the place. That had been scrubbed clean. Even odder, however, was that nobody before myself had apparently thought to blog about the place or even post a photo. None of the local TV or newspaper sites had one word about the place, though that was to be expected since they had all swung Disney's way. They wouldn't be out there lauding their embarrassment, you know. Recently, I learned that corporations can actually ask Google, for example, to remove links from search results, basically for no good reason. Looking back, it's probably not that nobody spoke of the resort, but rather their words were made inaccessible. So in the end, I could barely find the place. All I had to go on was an old-as-heck map I'd received in the mail back in the 90s. It was a promotional item sent out to people who had recently been to Disney World, and I guess since I had been there in the late 80s, that was recent. I didn't really intend to hang on to it. It just got shoved in with my books and comics from my childhood. I'd only remembered it months into my research, and even then it took me another few weeks to locate the storage bin my parents had shoved it all into. But I did find it. Locals were no help, as most were transplants who had moved to the beach in recent years, or old residents who just sneered at me and made rude gestures the second I managed to say, "Where can I find Mowgli's?" The drive took me through an inordinately long corridor. An inordinately long corridor of overgrowth. Tropical plants that had run rampant and overpopulated the area, mixed with the native species of flora that actually belonged there and had tried to reclaim the land. I was in awe when I reached the front gates of the resort. Tremendous, monolithic wooden gates whose supports to either side looked like they must have been cut from giant sequoias. The gate itself had been gouged in several places by woodpeckers and eaten away at the base by burrowing insects. Hanging on the gate was a sheet of metal, some random scrap with hand-painted letters scrawled in black. Abandoned by Disney. Clearly the handiwork of some past local or unemployee who wanted to make some small protest. The gates were open enough to walk through, but not drive. So grabbing my digital camera and the map, whose flip side showed a layout of the resort, I set off on foot. The inner grounds of the palace were just as overgrown as the entryway. Palm trees stood untended and ragged among piles of their own coconuts. Banana plants similarly stood in their own sinking, bug-riddled refuse. There was a sort of clash between order and chaos as carefully planted rows of perennial flowers mixed with obnoxious tall weeds and stinking blackened mushrooms. All that remained of any outdoor structures were broken, rotting wood and various charred bits of unidentifiable material. What was most likely an information booth or an outdoor bar was now simply a pile of assorted debris, chopped up by past vandalism and ravaged by weather. The most interesting thing on the grounds was a statue of Baloo, the friendly bear from the Jungle Book, which stood in a sort of courtyard in front of the main building. He was frozen in a jovial wave toward no one, staring into empty space with a silly, toothy grin as bird poop covered whole swaths of his fur, and vines ensnared his platform. I approached the main building, the palace, only to find the outside of the building covered in graffiti, where the original paint hadn't peeled and chipped away. The front doors weren't just open, they had been taken off their hinges and were stolen. Above the front doors, or the gaping maw where they had been, someone had once again painted, "Abandoned by Disney." I wish I could tell you about all the awesome stuff I saw inside the palace. Forgotten statues, abandoned cash registers, a full-fledged secret society of homeless bums. But no, the inside of the building was so stark, so bare, that I actually think people had stolen the molding off the walls, anything that was too big to steal. Counters, desks, giant fake trees, they were all resting amid this empty echo chamber that amplified my every step like a slow rat-a-tat of a machine gun. I checked the floor plan and headed to all the locations that might seem in any way interesting. The kitchen was, as you'd imagine, an industrial food prep area with all the appliances in space, no expenses spared. Every glass surface was broken, every door knocked off its hinges, every metal surface kicked and dented. The entire place smelled like very old urine. The huge freezer, not even remotely cool now, had row upon row of empty shelf space. Hooks hung from the ceiling, probably for hanging cuts of meat, and as I stood inside for a moment, I noticed they were swinging. Each hook swung in a random direction, but their movements were so slow and small that it was almost impossible to see. I figured it had been caused by my footsteps, so I stopped one from swinging by clutching it in my fist, then carefully letting go. But within seconds, it started to swing once more. They spared no expense! And now we get to learn what happens even if you spare no expense on a far too ambitious park. The bathrooms were in much the same state as the rest of the palace. Just like the Treasure Island Resort, someone had methodically smashed each porcelain commode with coconuts and other implements. There was about a half-inch of rancid, stinking, stagnant water on the floor, so I didn't stay there very long. What's odd is that the toilets and the sinks and the bidets in the ladies' room, yes, I went there, all dripped, leaked, or just ran freely. It seemed to me that they should have dripped, leaked, just ran freely. It seemed to me that they should have shut the water off long ago. There were plenty of rooms in the resort, but naturally I didn't have the time to look through them all. The few I did peer into were similarly wrecked, and I didn't expect to find anything there. I thought there was actually a television or radio in one room, as I really think I heard a quiet conversation coming out. Though it was like a whisper, probably my own breathing echoing in the silence, or just another case of the sound of flowing water, playing tricks on the mind. This is what it sounded like. Number 1. I didn't believe it. Number 2. Short. They gave a short, unknown reply. Number 1. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Number 2. Your father told you. Number 1. Gives an unknown reply, or possibly just weeping. I know, that sounds ridiculous. I'm just telling you what I experienced. Why, I thought there might have been something running in that room. Or worse, some vagrants who had holed up there and probably would have knifed me. At the front of the doors of the palace again, I figured I hadn't found anything of note, and had wasted the trip up. As I looked out the door, I noticed something interesting in the courtyard that I had apparently missed. Something that would give me at least one thing to show for all my trouble, even if it was just a photograph. There, as a lifelike statue of a python, maybe 80 feet long, coiled up and sunning itself on a pedestal right in the center of the area. It was almost time for the sun to start setting, so the light fell onto the object in the perfect way for a photograph. I approached the python and snapped a photo. Then I stood on my toes and snapped another. I moved closer again to get the detail of its face. Slowly, casually, the python lifted its head, looked directly into my eyes, turned, and slithered off the pedestal, across the grass, and into the tree. All 80 feet of it. Its head, long, disappeared into the woods before its tail even left the sunning spot. Disney had released all their exotic animals onto the ground. Right there on my floor plan map was the reptile house. I should have known. I had read about the sharks at Treasure Isle, and I should have known that they'd done this. I was dumbfounded, just utterly stupefied. My mouth must have been hanging open for the longest time before I came back down to earth and snapped it shut. I blinked a few times and backed away from where the snake had been, back toward the palace. Even though it was totally gone, I still wasn't taking any chances and backed my way into the building. I took a few deep breaths and slaps to my own face, get myself right in the head again after that. I looked for a place to sit down, as my legs were feeling a bit like jelly at this point. Of course, there was no place to sit down, unless I wanted to recline in the broken glass and dead leaf carpet, or haul myself up onto a desk of questionable reliability. I had seen some stairs near the palace's hobby and decided to go have a seat there until I felt better. Let me reread that paragraph about the legs jelly. I looked for a place to sit down, as my legs were feeling a bit like jelly at this point. Of course, there was no place to sit down, unless I wanted to recline in the broken glass and dead leaf carpet, or haul myself up onto a desk of questionable reliability. I had seen some stains near the palace's lobby and decided to go have a seat there till I felt better. The staircase was far enough away from the front of the building to be relatively clean, save for a startling accumulation of dust. I pulled a wedge of metal off the wall, once again painted with the "abandoned by Disney" motto I'd become accustomed to. I placed the wedge on the stairs and sat on it to keep at least somewhat clean. The stairway led downward below ground level. Using my camera flash as a sort of improvised flashlight, I could see that the staircase ended in a metal mesh door with a padlock. A sign on the door, a real sign, read, "Mascots only. Thank you." This perked up my spirits a little bit, for two reasons. One, a mascots only area would have definitely some interesting stuff back in the day. Would have definitely had some interesting stuff back in the day. And two, the padlock still in place. Nobody had gone down there. Not the vandals, not the looters, nobody. This was the one place I could actually explore and perhaps find something interesting to photograph or wantonly steal. I had come to the palace essentially agreeing with myself that it was okay to take anything I wanted because, hey, abandoned. It didn't take much to bust the lock. Well, actually, that's wrong. It didn't take much to bust the metal plate on the wall that the padlock was hooked to. Time and decay had done most of the work for me, and I was able to bend the metal plate enough to pull the screws out of the wall. Something nobody else had apparently thought of, or hadn't been able to do at the time. The mascots only area was a startling and very welcomed change from the rest of the building I'd seen. The mascots only area was a startling and very welcome change from the rest of the building I'd seen. For one, every second or third fluorescent light overhead was illuminated, even though they flickered and faded randomly. Also, nothing had been stolen or broken, even if age and exposure were definitely taking their toll. Tables had notepads and pens. There were clocks, even a punch-in clock on the wall, complete with filled-out time cards. Chairs were scattered around, and there was even a small break room with an old static-filled television and long, rotted-out food and drink on the counters. It was like one of those post-apocalypse movies where everything is left in the state of evacuation. Let me read that. It was like one of those old post-apocalypse movies where everything is left in the state of evacuation. As I walked to the maze-like sub-basement hallways of the mascots only area, the sights just became more and more interesting. As I went further, desks and tables were knocked over, papers scattered and almost melded with the damp floor, and a large carpet of mold was slowly overtaking the real rotting crimson floor covering. Everything was just sort of squishy. Anything would disintegrate into mush when I applied even the least amount of force, and clothing items hanging on hooks in one of the rooms simply fell to moist threads if I tried to unhook them. One thing that annoyed me was that the light was becoming more sparse and unreliable as I went further into the dark, suffocating depths of the place. Eventually, I reached a black and yellow striped door with the words "Character Prep 1" stenciled on it. The door wouldn't open at first. I figured this was probably where the costumes were kept, and I definitely wanted a photograph of that twisted, stinking mess. Try as I might, whatever angle or trick I tried, the door wouldn't budge. That is, until I gave up and started to walk away. That was when there was a slight popping sound, and the door creaked open, slowly. Inside, the room was completely dark, pitch black. I used the camera flash to look for a light switch in the wall to by the door. In the wall by the door. But there was nothing. As I made my search, I was jarred out of my sense of excitement by a loud electrical buzz. Rows of lights overhead suddenly flashed to life, flickering and fading in and out like the rest I had passed. It took a second for my eyes to adjust, and it seemed like the light was going to just keep getting brighter until all the bulbs exploded. But just when I thought it would reach that critical stage, the lights dimmed a bit and steadied. The room was exactly as I had pictured it. Various Disney costumes hung on the walls, fully put together like strange cartoon cadavers hung from invisible nooses. There was an entire rack of loincloths. I'm getting pretty sleepy. Okay. Well, please sleep well, and thanks for coming along. I'm almost at the end, but if you want to leave now, it's okay. What I found odd, and what I wanted to photograph right away, was a Mickey... was a Mickey Mouse costume at the center of the room. Wait, like, are you leaving the stream now? Because I don't want to leave. I don't want to miss the chance to say bye. I'll continue to listen since we're almost there. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, almost at the end. What I found odd, and what I wanted to photograph right away, was a Mickey Mouse costume at the center of the room. Unlike the other costumes, it was lying on its back in the center of the floor like a murder victim. The fur on the costume was rotten and shedding, creating bare patches. What was even odder, however... okay. What was even odder, however, was the coloring of the costume. It was like a photo negative of the actual Mickey Mouse. Black where he should be white, and white where he should be black. His normally red overalls were light blue. Isn't the opposite of the color red green? But never mind. The sight was off-putting enough that I actually put off photographing the thing until last. I took a picture of the costumes hanging on the walls, upward angles, downward angles, side shots to show an entire row of frozen, putrid cartoon faces, some with plastic eyes missing. Then I decided to stage a shot. Just one of the bedraggled character heads on the slick, grimy floor. I reached for the headpiece of a Donald Duck costume and carefully removed its sign, which is like, well, okay, because I thought when you like run red through photo negative, it's actually green. But maybe it's wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I reached for the headpiece of a Donald Duck costume and carefully removed it so the thing wouldn't fall apart in my hands. As I looked into the face of the wide-eyed, moldering head, a loud clattering sound made me jump with fright. I looked down at my feet, and there between my shoes was a human skull. It had fallen out of the mascot head and shattered into pieces at my feet. Only the empty face and lower jaw remained, staring up at me. I dropped the duck head immediately. Fun fact, if you found a negative gray, it just becomes gray again. Surely the neutral color. I dropped the duck head immediately, as you would expect, and moved for the door. As I stood in the doorway, I looked back to the skull on the floor. I had to take a picture of it, you know. I had to. for any number of reasons that may seem silly, but only if you don't think it through. I need proof of what happened, especially if Disney was going to make this go away. I had no doubt in my mind right from the start that even if it was just gross negligence, Disney was responsible for this. That's when Mickey, I almost said, oops. Thank goodness I didn't say that with an N. Oops. Disney was responsible for this. That's when Mickey, photo negative, opposite Mickey in the middle of the floor, started to get up. First sitting up, then climbing to its feet, the Mickey Mouse costume, or whoever was inside of it, stood there at the center of the room, its fake face just staring directly at me as I mumbled over and over and over, with shaking hands, a violently thrashing heart, and legs that had once again turned to jelly. I managed to lift the camera and aim it at the opposite creature, now quietly sizing me up. The digital camera's screen displayed only dead pixels in the shape of the thing. It was a perfect silhouette of the Mickey costume. As the camera moved in my unsteady hands, the dead pixels spread, marring the screen. Whatever Mickey's outline moved to. Then when the camera died, went blank and quiet and broken. I raised my eyes once again to the Mickey Mouse costume. Hey, it said in a hushed, perverted but perfectly executed Mickey Mouse voice. Want to see my head come off? Want to see my head come off? It started to pull at its own head, working its clumsy glove-clad fingers around its neck with clawing, impatient movements similar to a wounded man trying to pull himself free of a predator's jaws. As it worked its digits into its neck, so much blood, so much thick, chunky yellow blood. I turned away as I heard a sickening tearing of cloth and flesh. Only cared about getting away. Above the doorway out of this room, I saw the final message clawed into the metal with bone or fingernails. Abandoned by God. I never got the pictures out of the camera. I never wrote the blog entry about it. After I ran from that place, fled for my sanity, if not my very life. I knew why Disney didn't want anyone to know about this place. They didn't want anyone like me getting in. They didn't want anything like that getting out. There was Abandoned by Disney. I hope you enjoyed it. My head feels a little light after that, so I guess I put too much fear into that emotion, even though it probably didn't really translate very well into the narration. But yes, I want to see my head come off, smiley face, woo. But that's probably going to be it for today, since my only chat member is about to leave, and we'll see how long Russian sleep experiment is. What are we at now? Okay, I can go another hour, but I don't know if I have the stamina for today, so I think I'll just leave it for tomorrow. That was fun. I'm asleep now, I think. Oh, Yasumi. Thank you for coming over, Mato. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for anybody who was lurking for the stream or rewatches the VOD. I hope you enjoyed it as well. I think I'm going to end today too, a bit early, just to conserve my voice, and because I am pretty hungry anyway. I don't know if I want to go what may be another hour of narration all while very hungry, so that's probably going to be it. But thank you for coming along. I hope you enjoyed it. I had fun today. It's nice when I don't have to stream games, because like I said, I've been getting tired of those. But tomorrow, we'll see. It'll probably just be more narration. Because like I said, I've really been losing a lot of passion for games. They're just so time consuming. They're just so long and they take forever to get through, and I don't have the time to stream as much as I would like. I'm jealous of streamers who can stream full time because, man, they chew through games probably so fast. Even if they would play one from start to finish, they would probably get through it so quickly, and I am very, very, very jealous. Can you imagine if it took me less than 3 months to finish a Zelda game? That would be nice. But nevertheless, that's going to be it for tonight's stream. Thank you for coming along, Mado. Thank you for anybody rewatching the VOD. And from Big Sister, have a good night. Ayasumi.